In last week's episode, we talked about first. Let's see what you had to say. Busy Dad Living makes a point that I really, really love, and it is that first is kind of just as much a salutation as it is a competition, and that it is effectively YouTube comment section small talk, and that it's a way to sort of not just get the conversation going, but to kind of identify other commenters and commenters to the creator as being just, you know, like humans who have to get through just that first part of the conversation to kind of, you know, have that human interaction. And I really love that idea. Soliloquy, who also reached out to me on Twitter, actually gives first certificates on their channel. If you post first and you are in fact the first commenter, and if we were more organized, this is an idea that we would steal. Also great. A bunch of people made some guesses as to why YouTube has become kind of the home of first after it migrated from Slashdot and Fark, and there were a couple that I wanted to point out specifically. Emccoy talks about how the YouTube comment section is a sort of singular destination, that in a lot of other places, especially on places like Tumblr, whenever you comment or you reblog something, you sort of create this divergent path for the post. And so the people who are gonna see it are only gonna be the people who follow you, whereas on YouTube, you know, you're all looking at the same video, and so you all have the same comment section, unless you use an extension that switches it out for Reddit or something. And so that sort of ups the stakes and the worth of being first, which I think is a really interesting idea. Fish in a Barrel talks about how it is maybe just kind of tautological that first survives on YouTube because YouTube is the place where first survives. And I think that there is some value to that it has just become identified with YouTube comment sections, and so will continue to be identified with YouTube comment sections. Spectrei talks about how that might be the case simply because, kind of like what we talked about in the video, you know, YouTube videos, the comment section is not necessarily thought of as a place for deep introspection, I guess, unless, you know, you're posting on an Idea Channel video. Ding. And so, you know, it's kind of just about getting a reaction from people, and so first is one way to do that. I would say the thing that I've been thinking about since we published the video is I would wonder also about the sort of permanence and the use of a YouTube account. And I would guess the weight of a YouTube account itself, especially if you haven't or don't upload videos, is such that your first comments, though they may be derided in the comment section, don't actually have a long-standing weight as far as being associated with you or following you around to other parts of the website. Though I might be wrong about this, but I feel like that's at play here somehow. Znxster, that was Fark, and so I'm gonna read their FAQ on the matter. Fark, on the first post time warp is what they called it. For whatever reason, message boards on sites like Fark are forever plagued with morons posting first post anytime a link is posted. Fark automatically turns the words first post into the word boobies and resets the timestamp on the message to sometime in the future so that it isn't the first post anymore. Attempts to evade that sometimes result in becoming wieners instead of boobies. Good job, Fark. LAXLEBEAR makes a really interesting point about the signal to noise ratio in YouTube comments and talks about how first is one of a few situations where you can reasonably guess that the creator is looking at the comment section and actually make an impression, actually get your username, if anything, in front of their eyes, that this is a way for you to try to communicate even a little bit that you exist. And I think that there is also some worth to that idea. Gamer Nick makes the very astute observation that we are all, for even maybe the briefest of moments, the last comment posted. Lux and Nocte on the subreddit makes the point that you could liken first posting to graffiti in some way, and I think this is a cool idea. You know, first of course doesn't have the artistic merit or sort of technique involved, but I can definitely see the relationship between the two. And this inspired a really great conversation that's recommended reading if you have some time. WorldShaper makes a really funny comparison between first and haggis, a thing that not everybody who is part of a culture enjoys, but will unabashedly recognize that it is an important part nonetheless. And last, but certainly not least, congrats to everyone who was first. Leetal, INeverPlayedF-Zero, and Eva Holiday. And of course me.